welcome to another edition of Bleeding Cool Chatter. We just finished up a nice long discussion about Star Wars The Last Jedi, but we kept it nice and spoiler-free for you guys, which means that we're doing a second segment now talking about spoilers. So this is your big warning. This is going to be a spoiler-filled episode. We are going to talk about the major reveals. We are going to talk about all of the big stuff that happens in this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, or if you care about spoilers, then just click away, come back on another time, go see the movie, enjoy it the way you want to, etc., etc. My name is Kaitlyn Booth. I am the head film writer here at Bleeding Cool, and I am being joined by three of my writers tonight. They are Bill.
That's me.
Jeremy.
That's me, and I'm so happy I was right about Rey.
And Addie, who actually hasn't seen the movie yet, but has already been spoiled because people on the internet are jerks. Don't be a jerk.
Some people write articles about spoilers. Can you imagine such a person?
Yeah, and some people also get angry emails from Disney when they do that. Whoops.
So this is our catharsis. So, first thing, who wants to throw out a thing first to talk about?
Rey.
Yeah, Jeremy already talked about one of them, and he was happy about this one.
What about
So, when I walked out of Force Awakens, the first thing I turned to my friends and said, the first thing they want to talk about was who Rey's parents were. And I said, I hope they're nobody. I hope she's just somebody that's strong with the Force, and, you know, she's just a person. And she's coming into all of this blind like all of us would, and she's not related to anybody we know, and they don't have to try and shoehorn some continuity in to tie it all together in a nice big bow. And that's what it is. I was so happy, and I wanted to fist bump in the movie theater and just throw up my arms and go, I was right! And yell so loud, but I couldn't because I was at a critics screening and I had to be professional, so I didn't.
There's no such thing as being professional in a critics screening. One of my friends, during a very pivotal scene in this movie, I don't even remember what it was, but it was a pretty quiet one. All of a sudden, you just heard him go, oh, shit! And I absolutely, as far as being a professional film critic, I handed off a screener for an Oscar contender to a fellow critic today in my pajamas. So, you know, professionalism. Yeah.
Hey, Jeremy.
I'm so excited about the Rey not being related to anybody thing, too, because that's what I wanted. That wasn't what I thought I was going to get, though. I didn't think they were actually going to go there. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is the fact that it comes from Kylo. And I don't know if I can trust it.
Lied.
Kylo
lied. Listen to Daddy Hunt. He lied.
No.
Can we talk about the thing that made me the happiest?
Yes.
Porgs.
The porgs were awesome. Shut up, Bill. The thing that made me happy is they didn't redeem Kylo Ren.
Nope.
Yes. Thank God. I think I've ranted to Jeremy about this a couple of times. I did not want them to redeem Kylo Ren at all. Look, there are some people in the world who are just assholes. There are people who are evil, and they don't have any good left in them. Sometimes when somebody goes bad, they don't come back. That's just the way it is. And the fact that the movie spent the entire time teasing that they were going to bring him back, and then they didn't, I was so excited. I was like, thank you, movie. Thank you. Thank you for not doing that. That was the thing that made me the happiest. I was so excited to see that they were not going to end up redeeming Kylo Ren, because that was not what I wanted.
I'll adjunct off of that that I'm glad that at least the way that they present it was that it was Luke that pushed him over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a mistake, but in the end, Kylo may have chosen a different path, but Luke pushed him to it. And to an extent, the final making of that choice wasn't Kylo's fault. What is his fault is everything he did after. But but it's kind of like, you know what?
We are not going to play the game of excusing the murderer. The murderer. Yes, Kylo Ren fans, your favorite character killed an entire 4 planets of people. He killed people. I don't care how sad his eyes are. He is still a murderer. I say the same thing about Loki.
Hey,
motive, still a murder.
The rebels killed 2 planets worth of people.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, small moons, whatever.
And you still need a big bad guy for the third movie anyway.
Yeah.
And he is going to be the big bad guy because that was something they ended up doing.
Well, it's like I was like, they kill off Snoke at halfway through the movie. That was quick.
It's an interesting scene when it happens, especially in context. It was one of those things where when it happened, I was like, holy shit, what just happened? And then immediately I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. From narrative point of view, I'm like, I'm okay with it. But when it first happened, I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that at all.
Nope.
I guess to know that much about Snoke's past is like, he's just a bad guy who knows the Force. Okay, fine.
I could see that going along with the Rey's parents thing, because you know what, I'm good with it ends up being that Kylo lied and it's actually something relevant. That'd be fine. I'm also fine with it being really they were nobody. Either which way it kind of works, but it goes back to the Snopes. If really, what's his backstory? Does not. It's not inherently relevant to the story. The story is he is the big bad. They can do a standalone film on him if they really want to sometime, but inherently, you don't always need the backstories to make something relevant. You just need a foil to work off of. Nope. Not so fond of the Imperial Guards this time.
You didn't like that scene?
Cheesy. They've all got various, vibro weapon plasma things. Like, it was okay. I mean, I
really liked that scene. I thought
the part where he catches the lightsaber and ignites it through the dude. Oh my!
That was cool. That was cool. Now, but think of how many of those fight moves, which were amusingly borrowed from fan films that have been made over the last several years of lightsaber battles. Because you know how they have the competition for best lightsaber fights in a fan film every year? Several of those moves are actually from those. And so I was like, that's kind of a cool throwback. And there's I
liked in that scene how they showed Kylo and Rey tactically moving through them instead of just lightsabers.
They were working together.
It was probably one of the best choreographed fight scenes in Star Wars we've seen in forever. Like, it didn't feel all flippy and like wishy in a way that the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin felt in Revenge of the Sith, which I know is often cited as the best lightsaber duel in Star Wars.
No, it wasn't.
No, I don't know. I don't listen to Star Wars fans usually. They don't like me, so I don't.
Just both spin their lightsabers really fast and connect. It's like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was a whole subset of people who thought that was the best duel. I don't know. Whatever. Regardless, I feel like that's one of the best duels we've seen in Star Wars in forever. Not just in the way it's framed really well and it's shot really well and it's presented in a way. I think my phone just went off. I'm sorry. It's presented in a way that's very. It's easy to follow. Like, one of the things that is a problem with a lot of action movies. I usually will cite not Star Wars. I'll cite Transformers with this. Is that when the camera moves around too much, you lose a sense of space and a sense of where everybody is in context to the room. And in this sense, I knew where Rey was, I knew where Kylo Ren was, I knew where they were in relevance to Snoke's throne and where the body was. In general, I knew how big the room was. I mean, it all made sense on a spatial level, which means that the scene is much more memorable, because when you can't remember where everybody is, when you don't have that sense of space, it makes fight scenes be very, very forgettable. It's why nobody can remember anything that happens in a Transformers movie, because you have no idea where anybody is in relevance to each other. So I really, really enjoyed that fight scene. I thought it was really, really well done.
I think the whole stretch of that throne room scene with Snoke and him dying and you not getting the backstory and that part, the battle, and then Kylo trying to tempt Rey and revealing who her parents, that's going to be the most divisive thing coming out of this movie. People are going to be super pissed at A, that Rey is not a Skywalker, and B, that they didn't get a backstory on Snoke, because it feels like everybody just wants everything explained to them right now, and then we can move on to the next thing. And the fact that they're not going to get answers, I think, is going to piss a lot of people off.
I can think of a lot of things in this movie that are going to piss a lot of people off.
So your reactions earlier from the last segment, when I brought up the invulnerable flying space Leia.
I loved invulnerable flying space Leia. I don't know why you didn't.
It was cool. Now, there's two things. One, it was cool. Two,
we got confirmed that Leia is actually Force sensitive. That she is, like, we've known that she's at least a little Force sensitive. We've never actually seen her able to do anything with it, though. This is the first time we've actually seen her channel the Force in some way. That is fucking awesome.
She's in a vacuum
for
30 seconds. Okay. But in the end, it was cool. It was just kind of it's different. It's different.
Here's my problem as a big Rebels watcher. There are whole scenes where the characters are riding space whales in space without helmets or anything on for very long times, including scenes where they talk to each other.
She did not have a space whale.
No, but she definitely was crystallizing like Star-Lord on his worst day. And
that's true.
And I was like, as cool as the visual was, and I respect that it was the first time we saw her use the Force, it took me out of the movie a little bit.
It was there's a couple times in this movie where they fake you out and really kind of...
I totally felt for her being sucked out of the ship and dying.
Yes,
yep,
right here.
Too.
I was like, that's it. Her floating through. I'm like, it's all that. You're killing me. Man.
I'm going through the stages of grief here. I'm doing it in about 30 seconds here, and then bam, they bring her back, and I'm like, shit, god damn it. And then they do it again with Finn when it looks like he's about to kamikaze his way into the giant freaking gun. I'm like, I'm going through the stages of grief. I'm about to lose Finn. I'm not okay with this. Then Rose smacks him out of the way, and you're like, never mind. No, Finn doesn't die. And then they do it again like 3 fucking times when Luke shows up. It's like, I can't handle... By the end of that movie, I was like, I can't freaking handle how stressed out this is making me.
I didn't want to talk about it when we were talking about spoilers. My biggest problem with the film is Finn's story.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a giant fan. Canto Bight kind of felt like, okay, well, the big three, like Poe is with the Resistance, and we need to give him more to do in this one, and Rey is with Luke. What the hell are we going to do with Finn? Right. And I actually really, really liked Rose, and that whole story. I actually would have preferred if Rose and her sister somehow were sent on that adventure instead of Finn.
I was pissed that they killed Paige 30 seconds into the fucking movie. That pissed me off.
And when Finn was riding into... Oh, and by the way, there is a Death Star in this movie. I just want to point that out. There is a Death Star. They said that cannon is a Death Star firing weapon. I count that as
Did they really?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they said it's a Death Star cannon. They had them in
Finn says it.
They have it in surplus. It was the same... They used the same 3D render model that they had on the damn Dreadnought.
I'm just saying, that counts as a Death Star. But anyway... when he's flying the ship into it, I would have been like, okay. I was like, okay, this is a good send-off for Finn. If this is what they're doing right now, I am okay with this.
Right.
I was not okay with it at all.
Out of him, Poe, and Rey, I'm sorry to say, Finn's third for me.
Right.
So I would have been A-okay with him sacrificing himself for the greater cause, because it would have given his character the ultimate meaning for the Resistance. This guy who was a stormtrooper who wanted to do the right thing, was sacrificing himself for their cause. He was one of the only people that said, we need to stand up to them right now and take care of this. We need to own this. We need to be the Resistance, and we need to be that spark that's igniting across the galaxy. That would have been the perfect way for him to go. But in the end, I'm happy that he didn't.
Yeah, that would have been devastating for a lot of people.
All right, so which of you actually thought that Luke was or was not there when he walks out of those doors?
When he did the Matrix move is when I figured it out.
Yeah, because all the movies, when he's in the fight, he never connects.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't figure it out at all.
I knew something. I
didn't
had
me convinced. I know. Yeah. Maybe I was just really caught up in everything.
No, you weren't. I figured something was up because he was never connecting with his lightsaber. He always bent out of the way. He deflected. He never tried to block with that saber. So something was weird with that. But I didn't think he was projecting from halfway across the galaxy. That was not what.
Such a good twist.
Yeah, it was a good twist. I actually would have been cool with the movie in the make everyone lose their shit way is if the movie had ended right when Luke walks out. He walks out, stands in front of them, and cut.
I actually was thinking to myself that was going to be the ending, and I was like, that's going to piss people off.
It'd be great.
I would have died right there in the theater.
Yeah.
Instead, you killed Luke. Congratulations.
The most overshared GIF of all time, starting whenever somebody gets an illegal screen cap of it, is going to be.
Yeah, totally. That is going to be used.
I was like, that's such a perfectly Luke Skywalker thing to do. He'd just be like.
That's a Hamill thing. That's totally a Hamill thing.
I know. So I love that Hamill has been, like part of his sense of humor is in Luke as well now, and it's just like, it's fantastic. And oh man, one of the things that somebody messaged me today about was wanting specifics on how Luke dies and the lead up to it, and I'm like. It's probably one of the most peaceful deaths we've seen in a Star Wars movie since probably Yoda, who also makes a cameo in this movie. He just
rebel scum.
He sits up, he relaxes on the stone, and just fades away. And I'm like, that really hurt to watch.
I was really surprised that they did not change anything in Leia's arc. The story is as written.
All I could think of watching that, I'm like, yep, the next movie was supposed to be hers. What the fuck are they gonna do?
So they could either, I know that they've said that they're not gonna CGI her. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they go back on that. They could have her off screen and she's a hologram. They could, they could blow her. I just think the cheapest thing would be if they just blow her up off screen. So, she'll be...
I don't know. That anything they do isn't going to feel good enough because...
No matter what they do, it's just going to be criticized. It's not going to be good enough for everybody.
Right. It's not going to be good enough for anybody. I don't know how it possibly could be. I mean...
I don't want them to kill her. I want them to be like, Leia's ship is over there, and she's just part of the Resistance, and her ship is there, and she's just there. Yeah. What I don't need my characters always to meet an end. That was my biggest problem with Rogue One. I didn't need all of those characters to die.
Oh, I was so sad when Holly died.
I didn't need K2S. There was no reason for K2SO not to keep going. There was I just that was my biggest problem with that movie is I didn't want everybody to die. And everybody died. Like,
Jeremy,
everybody.
You can join me on the denial train for Rogue One. It's a really fun train to be on because let me tell you, everybody lived and nobody died.
Like, even all of the
everybody lived and nobody died.
Like, remember that one time on Scarif where that pesky band of rebels stole the Death Star plans? That's Stardust. No, literally everybody died.
Isn't it great?
I love that movie.
Oh, that movie is good.
Such a good movie.
All right, let's... go ahead.
I've never seen a fandom jump on the denial train faster than I did when Rogue One came out.
Okay, in the non-spoiler one, I said I missed it up 3 times and I full-on balled once.
Okay.
I got misty when Luke first appeared again.
Right.
And he ended a lightsaber and just went...
That was a great scene.
I lost it pretty good when R2 played Leia's hologram to Ben.
That one was a low blow. R2 is a dick.
Yeah, R2 is a total dick.
That's a very special scene to me personally, so that one touched me. I got misty when I found out Rey was not a Skywalker because I was
you were so happy you were vindicated that you started crying.
And Bill's the first because I can't talk about the movie with anybody. Bill's the first person to say, "Oh, Kylo was lying," and that thought never entered my brain. If that's the case, now I'm coming to get you, Bill. And I full on tears streaming down my face, like wiping snot off my nose, like, oh my god, when Luke and Leia had their moment.
Oh, that was hard.
The twin sons.
That got me too.
Oh god, it was.
I sadly, as big as of a hero as Mark Hamill and Luke Skywalker are to me as people and characters in fiction, I was very okay with him dying because of the way they did it.
Yeah, it was such a good way to do it.
It was. I was like, oh, I would have lost my shit if they would have had Kylo Ren run him through with the lightsaber like he did Han. So I don't know how it reacted. So I was very, very, very happy with the way they did it.
Right. Yeah, like Han's death felt very. It didn't feel necessary to me.
Right.
Like, I understand why they did it, but it felt like a fridging almost. It felt like a stakes raising thing. It raised the stakes for Rey. It raised the stakes for Kylo. It made his death about everyone but him, really. Which I don't like it when characters do that, and usually that's the fate that usually befalls women characters. So congratulations, Han Solo, you got fridged. Join the rest of female characters in the world. But Luke's death felt personal, and it felt, I mean, just like Rey and Leia look at each other and they're like, yeah, he's gone. That's how he wanted to go. He was at peace.
For me, it was like, well, this is what Harrison wanted.
Yeah, and in this case, it's like, this isn't what Mark wanted. He probably would have come back from the 9th movie in a heartbeat, but...
Hey, Force Ghost.
Yeah, and he did say, I'll see you around, kid, and I was like...
That's one spoiler we didn't touch on.
Which one?
The Force Ghost.
Oh, yeah, Yoda. I said Yoda is a cameo. Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of spoiled that on the official Twitter by saying, what's his voice actor's name?
But that's not real. But what's funny is that they didn't really, because they invite everybody to the screening. People worked on the earlier films, so him being at the premiere was not a shoo-in. What was the shoo-in was Hamill complaining about it. That was what gave it away.
And then Frank Oz joined Twitter out of nowhere.
Wait. What are you talking about with Hamill complaining about it? I'm confused.
Hamill tagged the Star Wars thing and saying, "Good way to ruin a surprise."
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's what said it was real. Other than that, I mean, you can pick random characters from earlier films that are pictured on that carpet that have no relevance to the current one.
Yeah. I was happy they used the puppet. He was a puppet. And that was awesome.
It's kind of a spoiler when somebody said before the film came out, they actually used a puppet Yoda instead of CGI. I'm like, oh, okay, so Yoda's showing up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
No, I hadn't heard that spoiler.
All right, so who stole the books? Did Rey or did Yoda put him there? I kind of think it was Yoda that put him there on the Falcon. Because remember at the end scene when I think Finn goes to pull something out of one of the drawers on the Falcon, when he opens it up, all of the Jedi books are in there.
Oh, yeah.
Are they?
Yep, they're all there in that drawer.
Oh god, I totally freaking missed that.
So they're all full of it inside that drawer. So she's got all of the books as soon as she notices it. So the question is, was it Rey? I kind of think it was Yoda because Yoda was just fucking with Luke and he blasted the tree to keep him from going in there. So really, Yoda's being a little shit. Just not
Yoda's always been a little shit. It's on character. When he blew up the tree, I was like, yep, that's something Yoda would do. Asshole.
Yoda created the porgs just to mess with us. That's God, porgs. Yeah. It was good to see Yoda again. It was a nice surprise. I didn't know he was going to be there. So when he lit up, I kind of squeaked. What was your reaction, Kaitlyn?
I was really excited to see him. I was like, oh, look, it's Yoda. I was like, I wasn't expecting it. It was nice. It was like, that was one thing I really enjoyed about this movie was there was a lot of stuff I wasn't expecting because I've, despite the fact that, my job is to cover this stuff and I've been watching all the TV spots and I've been redoing all the coverage and, I've now covered 2 Entertainment Weekly cover pieces and Anthony Bresnikan goes into ridiculous amounts of detail. nothing was really spoiled for me. And that's something that I really appreciated about the marketing of this movie, because Rian Johnson said, you won't be spoiled by the trailers, you won't be spoiled by the marketing. And he was 100% right. Like, I can't think of any major reveals in this movie that were given away by the marketing. And that's just so rare. And like I said in our spoiler-free segment, the line, "This is not going to go the way you think," yeah, that describes pretty much the entire movie. It's not going to go the way you think. Not at all.
So, what do you think about the kids?
I loved it.
Loved it.
So good. So good. They've just had the star of the original trilogy has faded away, and now we fade into a new generation. And I didn't see it as a ploy to bring in, like, kids or, like, do the whole self-inspiration with the young child thing. It was just the trilogy very blatantly but subtly, in probably the most subtle thing that Star Wars has probably ever done, saying, we're moving on.
Right.
I know, everything is, Luke is gone in some ways, Leia is gone, Han is gone, the old Jedi Order is basically gone,
But this kind of gives you there is another.
There is another moment. It was just, such a good scene. And like I said, I'm sorry, Jeremy is like... Yeah,
he's muttering, I see him, he's all round up.
Go!
I think it's a flash forward for all you Lost fans out there.
Do you really?
He tells the story of Luke on Canto Bight. How the hell else would that kid have known what happened?
Was he telling the story of Luke?
Crate. Yeah, he was saying Luke was by himself and boom, 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 and everything. That's the dead giveaway. It's a flash forward. Star Wars.
But those kids, the same kids, including Janitor Kid, was with the other kids in the with the horses.
Well, I'm not saying it's like a decade into the future, but I think it's a flash forward.
Yeah, it could totally be a bit later. Yeah, I mean they've got Twitter.
Yeah, and just when he forces that broom into his hand.
Yeah.
When he was telling the story of Luke going by himself against the walkers who were lined up, I just had this giant grin on my face. I was like Bill said, it's me when I was a kid talking about Luke Skywalker to myself or whoever was listening. It puts the audience into the film, and it's so amazingly well done. And when he shows that ring, when the ring's there, and
it's the lifting of the broom, because on the one hand, like I said, it's kind of a cheesy thing of what he's doing, but it means so much because every person in that theater has done that shit with that, with a wrapping paper tube from Christmas. They've all been lightsabers, and that kid feels it, and everyone has looked up at the stars and thought that, and it went from cheese to magical, and it was really, I don't know who came up with that scene, but that scene is beautiful.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson, he's a goddamn god.
Yeah, if anyone wonders why Lucasfilm said, hey, here's your own trilogy to do whatever the hell you want, that scene is pretty much, that's why. That's why he's getting his own trilogy. That's why. Because that's like you said, it makes sense now that it would be is it subtle foreshadowing to what his trilogy is going to be? Is it something related to episode 9? I mean, like, who even knows what that's really going to symbolize, or if it's going to really mean anything by the end, aside from just maybe some basic symbolism. Who knows? But it's such a perfectly done scene. There's really no... that's why. If somebody said, why is Rian Johnson getting his own section of Star Wars, I'd say that scene. That's why. Yeah. Right there.
He gets, if nothing else, that scene indicates he gets it. He gets his audience. He does. He gets the mythos. He gets it.
Yeah.
Sniffles.
And since they said his trilogy's not going to be connected to the Skywalkers, and Rey isn't a Skywalker, she can come back and could train all of the little kids. And, they could all force brooms in their hands, and she can train the next generation of Jedi, and it could be the new Jedi Order trilogy. I'm just saying she's not a Skywalker, and I'm very happy about it.
So now that we know that Mickey Mouse is actually a Jedi in that scene from Fantasia.
Yeah, right.
With all the brooms.
All makes sense now.
Full circle.
Can we talk about Poe, please?
Yes.
My absolute
Wait,
love.
Adi, you even want to see this movie anymore?
Oh, I'll probably see it.
I said you could leave.
No, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with spoilers.
So what about Poe?
He's my favorite character. I absolutely love Poe Dameron. He's my favorite character in the entire new characters. And I loved his arc in this so much. I love that he screwed up big time. I like that he not only like his plan at the beginning failed for the most part in the sense that there was a lot of collateral loss. I loved that his plan to get back at Holdo completely failed. And I like that it all comes back at the end and it's like it's nice subtle character work again. It's nice subtle evolution there. You know, he says he realizes what Luke's doing. He's buying them time to escape. And he says, we need to go. We need to run. And everyone turns to look at Leia and like to wait for some sort of like wait for her to say, yeah, do it. She's like, why are you looking to me?
Yeah.
What? Follow him. He said the right thing. Do it. And I'm like, yes, I'm so excited to see that. And his back and forth with Holdo was awesome. I loved her. I loved Holdo. I know we weren't supposed to until the end, but I loved her from the moment she walked on screen.
So did I.
I just thought she was fantastic, and I liked the dynamic between the two of them. I liked that, you know, she called him out on his crap, but at the same time, he was also calling her out on it, even if her strategy ultimately was right. He was also right to question it, and he was right to doubt it the way he did. He probably overreacted, but it made sense as far as like what that character would do. He wouldn't trust them. Like if Leia had said, you know, we're going to, you know, do this plan, he would have been like, yeah, we'll do that. That sounds good. Great. 100%. I'm on board. I'll listen to anything you say ever. But because it wasn't her, he immediately didn't trust her. And I loved it. I loved all of it. It was so good.
It's almost a shame that they kill her off so in this movie, isn't it?
It really is. But man, the way she goes out is so awesome. And like, so this is one of those scenes where it's just the way it's shot is fantastic. So she realizes what she has to do. She's already planning on going down with the ship. She realizes all the transports are getting knocked out of the sky. She turns around, and they're like, she's making the jump to hyperspace. She's running, and immediately, I think it's Connix, Lieutenant Connix says she's running, and Poe's like, no, she's not running. And it takes a minute, and Hux figures out what she's doing, and she just flies the entire ship straight into the First Order, and it's just, and then the screen this entire movie just goes dead silent. Like, there's no sound at all as you just look at the destruction that she has just caused. And it's just...
Yeah, the silence going through with as the wreckage is spreading, that's where it harkens back. There's a couple other elements through the movie as well that relate to other sci-fi series, but the absence of sound in the middle of that explosion, very Galactica-esque. The jumping through to the other ship is very much Talon from Farscape with his suicide death run.
Hera does it in Rebels, and Han did it in Force Awakens as well. So it's not unprecedented, but it was still...
It was beautifully executed. It was really beautifully executed.
Like, damn. What a way for her to go out. Just, I loved it. I loved it. I thought that was so good. So good.
The Dreadnought was pretty epic as well from the beginning. Big and huge and impressive. And the Rebels have the slowest bombers in the history of the universe.
God, they do. No, God, poor Paige. I felt bad that I was really kind of disappointed that she died so quickly. Like, I knew she probably was, but I was still disappointed by it.
It's a little bit like, okay, we can only have one Asian female as a lead here.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. And especially because we don't have Jessica Henwick in there because she was too busy filming Defenders and Iron Fist, so we don't have Jessica anymore. which I was very disappointed by.
Kelly Marie Tran's amazing, though.
I love her. Protect that woman against everything in the entire world. Just set up a barrier and protect her. If you want to, like, follow her on Instagram. She is one of the best follows on Instagram out of probably anybody who is working in Hollywood right now. She is just so genuine and happy and excited and loving life in a way that we haven't seen since, like, her joy of being in Star Wars
is amazing.
And, like, her emotions, if you watch the red carpet for LA, she just cries throughout the entire thing.
It was so touching and moving.
It really was, and there's this great moment that somebody managed to capture of her breaking down right in front of Daisy Ridley, and, like, Daisy just gives her this humongous hug, and they're just standing there on the red carpet as Kelly is just crying her eyes out, and it's just, oh, I love her. And, like, everyone's like, that is how any of us would react if we were in Star Wars, and it's like, totally. Yeah, that pretty much is, like, she is, like, we are living vicariously through Kelly Marie Tran, you guys, and it's a fantastic thing. And she said, she posted a video from the London premiere today saying, I've cried off half my makeup and I don't think I don't know how this keeps happening. She is just loving life, and I am loving watching her loving life. Her joy is infectious and amazing, and I'm so happy for her. So happy for her.
She feels genuine. She feels really heartfelt, genuine.
I mean, it's something that we've noticed in a lot of people who are in the Star Wars. I mean, I felt the same way about John Boyega and Daisy Ridley. Oscar Isaac to slightly less of a degree, because Oscar actually had a lot more movie experience at that point compared to Daisy or John. And it's been fantastic to watch how much it's been affecting all of these new people who are getting these amazing opportunities, and it's like we're watching movie stars get born right in front of our faces, and it's incredible.
If you want a fun video to watch, there's a video on YouTube of Boyega the first time he saw the Force Awakens trailer. And they're sitting at his house watching it, and that's again, he's just like, dude, that's me.
Yep.
That's very cool.
That Daisy Ridley also posted a reaction the first time she saw it. She's got her hand in front of her mouth and she just goes like this.
She's watching on her phone. Yeah.
There's Kelly Marie Tran posted a reaction to the most recent I think the second trailer, I believe. And she's holding a porg while she does it, and she just, like, squeals and makes all these really cute noises, and she's not even in the trailer, if I remember correctly. Like, I don't even think her character shows up in that trailer, and she's still just, like, she's so excited and so supportive of her co-stars. Like, half of her pictures on Instagram are, like, her posting covers of the other women in Star Wars, and, like, how much she loves John Boyega, and it's just, like, fantastic. I love this cast. I love the people they cast in Star Wars. They're always so good. So, Addie, do you want me to spoil the political stuff, or is that something you would actually like to experience for yourself?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do we want to talk about Canto Bight and DJ at all?
Sure. I hated DJ.
You did?
I didn't really like DJ, no.
I'm interested by him, and I hope we get more of him, because I think I like Benicio del Toro, and I kind of like what they were doing with him. But
him as the kind of Mr. Gray area who talks about it's not about choosing sides in a war, it's about what you can get out of it and how you stay alive.
Yeah, and at one point he steals a ship to get Rey and Finn and Rose off of Canto Bight, and it's a ship for an arms dealer, and he pulls up the dossier saying, oh, well, here he is selling to the First Order and the First Order and the First Order, and here he is selling to the Resistance. So it's like, it's very, that's one of the very obvious political digs. The other one is actually in Canto Bight, where Rose basically tells Finn to take a look at this so-called beautiful place and then look a little closer, and seeing, like, how it's built off of arms manufacturing and child labor in this case. There's the kids that we've been talking about are present there, and they're basically child slaves, and that's the other really obvious political dig. I think the whole point of Canto Bight was to get in the political dig.
Oh yeah, when I saw stills and I saw the people in tuxedos and the robot butlers, I thought, okay, this is very much a class commentary. This is about the 1%. This is very explicitly a metaphor for the 1%.
And that's something that Rose also really embodies, because she's not, a hotshot pilot or the kid of a bunch of war heroes or, a Jedi or anything. She's just a mechanic who comes from a planet that was taken over by the First Order, she's just a normal person. And out of anybody in Star Wars, she feels like the one who has the least amount of destiny hanging over her shoulders. And in that case, it makes her probably the most relatable person, because she's there to point out, in very much the way that that Rogue One kind of did, is that there's a very human element to this. A lot of these soldiers are just people. Who showed up and were trying to do their best, who've come from bad backgrounds or who've lost everything, or and I liked that aspect of it. Like I said, I kind of, while I didn't dislike Finn and Rose's little journey, it probably out of the various story threads, it was probably the weakest, which is really kind of disappointing. But I also understand why it was there. So I don't know how they could have really executed it differently to make it better.
Well, it was there to make a thematic point, and given the fact that Rian Johnson said that his first cut was 3 hours long, and they took out entire sequences, and they'll probably stick them on the DVD. This movie, like you said, it doesn't have a 3-act structure. It has maybe a 6-act structure. And it essentially has multi-plot because it has multiple protagonists, so it's an ensemble plot. It feels more like a 6-part miniseries to me, based on all the stuff that's going on. Much more than Empire. Empire pretty much had a 3rd-act structure. This one had way too much stuff, so it sounds like 6 acts to me. I could be wrong. I'll figure it out when I watch it. But that's interesting, because it makes it seem a bit more episodic, because you have Rey and Luke, and then you have Poe and the Resistance trying to survive, and then you have Finn and Rose's mission, and you have Kylo Ren and Snoke and Hodo's little conflict. So Hux, sorry, and Hux. Okay. And so so that's an interesting way to put a movie together, and you have to have a lot of confidence in your script to do that, because if you contrast that with, say, the movie of the Dark Tower, which basically turned like thousands of pages into the most generic 90-minute 3-act structure you could possibly end up with.
Just don't remind me, I'm going to get angry.
Oh yeah, to the point where that movie bombed and might have killed that franchise stone dead.
Might?
I still watched it.
So it's interesting to look at to think of it in terms of contrast and reactions in storytelling in Hollywood, and how they're starting to realize that, oh, you should actually do something with a sequel rather than have the sequel just be a remake of the first movie with a bigger budget and bigger explosions, which is what they used to keep doing. And when they do a throwback for an adaptation that doesn't work, like Dark Tower, it becomes even more glaringly obvious now than it was, say, if it had been in 1998, for example. So hats off that I'm glad that they're actually making the effort to do something with franchises rather than just repeat tropes. And there's that thing that where you talked about Rose, which is interesting, which is she's kind of nobody, which means that she's like a metaphor for a working class character. She's a mechanic.
Yeah, very much.
And in some ways, Rey is kind of like that as well with her start, where she's basically this this scavenger living in essentially in a wreck. And so, although everyone keeps assuming that she's a secret princess, which kind of plays into that particular fantasy trope. So at least now you have Rey and Rose as symbolic contrast to each other, because maybe Rey might still turn out to be a secret princess, but then she kind of is a secret princess in the sense that, oh, she's a Force sensitive and she's the next harbinger of the Jedi, whereas Rose is still essentially a mechanic and essentially an ordinary person. So structurally and thematically, that contrast works quite well in this movie, and it also fills it out much more.
And neither of them are Skywalkers.
Thank God, because when you think about it, the Skywalkers are the most horrendously dysfunctional.
Oh, they really are.
Fiction. I mean, how many planets and people have died because of Skywalkers?
Lots.
I just remember there's an image, and I don't know where it is, and it's the beginning of a crawl, and it just says like Star Wars, and and it's just at the first line is the Skywalker family is fucking up again, and I'm like, yep. That's it. And I'm like, I'm so excited we're moving away from the Skywalker family fucking everything up again. Thank you. I'm ready to move past it.
Yeah, and think about it. I mean, Han Solo and Leia, they must have been really shitty parents to have had Kylo Ren end up the way he did.
They kind of get into that a bit in the movie.
Yeah.
One of the things they doesn't show up at all are the Knights of Ren, but we do get an indication of that they are also former students of Luke's. At least that's the implication that I got from when Luke says that Ren took off with some of his students and killed the rest of them. The implication from that I got was that the other students he took off with are the other Knights of Ren, which is gonna... I'm hoping those characters play some sort of interesting role in Episode 9.
Well, now that he's the Supreme Leader, he could have the Knights of Ren as his council and his protectors instead of the Royal Guards.
Can I tell you guys, at one point, when Hux and Ren are, like, sniping at each other, I brought a friend of mine, a female podcaster from the Hello Sweetie podcast, Rebecca Frost. I brought her as my +1 to this screening, and I just leaned over to her and I was like, can these two lay them out on the table and just get a ruler? Because, like, seriously, guys, we get it. You're both big boys. Lovely. Just stop. Like, that was all I could think when that was happening. And one of the funniest moments in the whole movie is when Hux is standing over an unconscious Kylo Ren and just starts reaching for his blaster, and then Ren wakes up and he just slowly moves his arm away. Like, nope, I wasn't gonna shoot you in the back when you were unconscious. Nope. And the symbolic... I mean, it's not just that... The thing that I find really fascinating about the whole Luke-Kylo Ren thing is that not only did he defeat Kylo, essentially, by letting the Resistance get away, he just straight up humiliated the new Supreme Leader in front of everybody.
Yep.
He had everyone fire on this guy that wasn't there. He got up and delayed them for his own wishes. And just the way that Hux turns and looks at him at the end of the movie, like, with this utter contempt, like, why do I have to submit myself to this guy? Those two are going to have a really fun dynamic in the next movie that I'm looking forward to. I wanted more of Domhnall Gleeson. I like the Space Hitler, the ginger Space Hitler. I find him hilarious, and I like it when he's on screen. He's so ridiculous.
Gleeson was kind of playing him for comedy to some extent.
He's playing him for comedy while playing him totally straight at the same time, and that's what makes it funny.
Yeah.
There's a great moment between him and Poe at the very beginning that I loved that. I
was gonna say I like that these movies are all starting with Poe being a comedian in some way.
Yeah. That's how he deals with stress, is to be a snarky little asshole, and I'm like, I love it. I love it. You're my favorite character. You're probably not going to live through episode 9. That pisses me off, but you're still my favorite character.
Cool. Hitting on the 50-minute mark. So.
Of course we are.
Yeah, because we're good at that. Just shy of an hour. It's like, oh look, amazing how time flies.
We'll do like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, right. When you said we'll do about 20 minutes, I almost laughed at you.
Yeah,
like an hour and a half later, it's like, let me tell you how important this rock is.
Rocks are important in this movie.
Floating rocks. Floating rocks.
Yeah.
And shall we talk about how, like, quickly and unceremoniously they just killed off Captain Phasma? It's like, she comes back. Oh, she's dead. Oh, okay.
Oh, yep. That was ridiculous.
Because she's Boba Fett.
She's not necessarily dead. She's not necessarily dead.
She's 100% dead.
She's just crispy.
She looks more dead than Boba Fett did.
That's for sure.
You know, the silver metallic of the armor will protect her.
It'll roast her.
Well, we've established it in Star Wars you can float in space indefinitely and be fine. Yay, 2 eye rolls. 2 eye rolls.
You're starting to sound like the guys I podcast with. They've started to say they're going to come up with, like, a noise on their phones to say whenever I roll my eyes at them.
Oh, challenge accepted. Awesome. I like these guys already.
All right. Well, since we've been going for 50 minutes, we should probably wrap this shit show up. My name is Kaitlyn Booth. I am the head film writer here at Bleeding Cool. We are going to be posting Star Wars content for, like, the entire weekend. Bill's going to have a review. Jeremy's going to have a review. Marianne is going to have a review. I've pretty much told anybody at the site that if they would like to review the movie, to just get in contact with me, and they will be able to review it. I'm all about everybody getting all of their feelings out for all the Star Wars. Since you're watching this, you're obviously all about the spoilers. But if you have any more questions that you would like to ask me about spoilers, you can feel free to contact me on Twitter at Katie's Movies. Maybe my spoiler article will be alive again by the time this comes up. Who knows? We'll have to see. I don't want to make Disney mad at me again. Bill, where can people find you?
Bill Waters. You can find me on Twitter at BillRW3.
Jeremy.
Jeremy Conrad. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremy Ohio.
And Addie.
I'm on Twitter at LookAtMoves.
We'll have to check in with you, Addie, after you actually see the movie.
And we'll do this all again.
We'll do this all again. By then, most of us will have seen it twice.
Yeah, I'll be curious, because one thing about subtext is that you guys have told me that the political stuff is not subtext. They made it text. They explicitly stated it. But the thing about a lot of these movies is that subtext is something else that they don't say explicitly, but then you suddenly think, wait a minute, it's really about this too. That's kind of part of the zeitgeist. That's what I like looking out for, to find out what it is.
And don't forget, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Occam's razor. Simplest answer is sometimes the easiest one.
Yep.
And in this case, the simplest answer is Rey is no one.
Rey is nobody.
Oh my God, she's Arya.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you at the next one.
I know.
Porgs.